Welcome and thank you to attending the Natchitoches Parish School Board meeting for July 13th, 2023. Board members and visitors, would you please silence your cell phones as to not to interrupt the meeting? If you'd like to speak to an agenda item, please complete the form at the small table in the back of the room and pass it forward. We will receive these forms until the meeting starts. Ms. Page, can you do the invocation? And Ms. Phelps, can you do the pledge?
Yes, absolutely.
Please bow your heads. Dear Father, thank you for enabling us to gather here today. We ask that you give us the guidance to have meaningful discussions that will help us to build each other up and the ability to listen to each other with open hearts. We ask that you guide us in dealing with the difficult challenges that we are facing today together. May this board, our community leaders, and parents be guided by wisdom and compassion. Lastly, please protect everyone in their travels tonight and on this week, as I know our school board members will be traveling to Arkansas. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ladies. Ms. Revels, can we have a roll call attendance?
Yes, and please bear with me, roll call will be out of order. I'm having technical difficulties over here. Mr. Nicholson, Mr. Fredu.
Here.
Ms. Palmer.
Here.
Mr. Nicholson.
Here.
Mrs. McGaskey. Ms. Phelps.
Here.
Mr. Benefield.
Here.
Ms. Page.
Here.
Mr. Danzig.
Here.
Ms. Harvey.
Here.
Mr. Matuire.
Here.
And Mr. Harris.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Board members, we have the superintendent on the line. He can hear us, but he can't see us. We're having a little technical inventory problems with some cable. Superintendent Eloy, can you hear us? Okay, there you go. Can you hear us, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we are at the superintendent report.
Yes, sir. There's nothing to add from the previous week. The only thing I can mention is that online registration is going with much more ease than last year. We do have an email set up for any issues folks are having if you don't have your password or things of that nature. But overall, it's been very successful so far and much easier than last year. Other than that, I have nothing else to report on this week's superintendent report.
That's great. Are you willing or able to comment on the Back to School Expo?
Yes, sir. So the Back to School Expo is July 25th, I believe. And that's going to be at Prather Coliseum. We're going to be posting that on the website for a whole lot of days prior to that. And the neat thing about this year is a lot about health and wellness, specifically mental health resources. People can still get their backpack, but they have to come to Prather, which the great thing about that is we won't have the long lines of people trying to go through our parking lot, which, as you know, right now is under construction. So at Prather, it's going to be a lot more easy, and people will be able to do online registration. They'll be able to pick up any documents they need and also get those free backpacks.
That's great. I saw Mrs. Lacaille's email that's noting the changes. So, board members, any question about the Back to School Expo? Okay, that's great. I'd like to look at the consent agenda for adoption.
Second.
We have an offer by Mr. McTuire and a second by Pastor Harris. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Thank you. Mr. Shirley, you have a report for us.
How are y'all this evening? Good. All I can report on in the last couple of months is a lot of painting, a lot of flooring, and we have a lot of our inspections going on, our life safety inspections, as far as different aspects of it, fire extinguishers, fire panels, sprinklers. It's just these last couple of months has been catch-up months from the school year, so it's been pretty busy.
Anything major from the storm that we had?
Just the awning at Goldonna, and we're waiting on that. We We had a couple of places with a few minor leaks, but I think one of them was a roof jack, and we removed the roof jack on it, but nothing major.
And with Fairview, you state that we had some leak repairs. Is that from,
It's from previous.
okay,
Yes, and most of those repairs were things we couldn't get to without removing cinder blocks and pieces of wall. We actually have a contractor that removed that for us. We've repaired it. Now we're actually putting the sheetrock and the cinder block back in.
okay, and so how is the water treatment system?
Actually, it's doing very well. Well, I don't actually have the report with me. I wish I'd have brought it now, to come to think of it. We have the previous reports showing how high the copper levels were. They have come down extreme since we've started the treatment on it. So I'll try to have that at the next board meeting.
Great.
Any other questions? All right, thank y'all.
Okay. Mr. Wasker.
No more informational reports to report. I was just up here for the finance side.
Okay, Ms. Page, do you have anything to add from? Okay, good. Mr. Wascom?
I have a question about finance. Summer school checks will go out tomorrow.
Yes, they'll be in the banks tomorrow morning.
Okay. Board members, if you would not mind, we have a number of visitors here that are very anxious to speak on item 5G. And I beg your permission to allow us move that agenda item to the front, if that would be okay with you. Does anyone have any objection? Okay, we have a number of speakers that have volunteered to speak. Ms. Tankia, do you mind if I read 5G?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Need a motion first.
We have 5G has been added to our agenda, and discuss and consider repealing the creation of Taxing District 12 by Mr. Nicholson. Do we have a motion for that?
I'll move.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Nicholson and a second by Ms. Page. And any discussion on that item? I think we need to hear from the public first. Part of the procedure, and we'll review it quickly, each speaker has 3 minutes. All comments must be germane to the agenda item. No complaints about individual students or employees. Anyone addressing the board must come to the podium and they'll not be recognized, and the request must be submitted prior to meeting time. And so we have quite a few speakers that have done that. And Mr. David Parrish, would you like to come to the podium and address the board? Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. I do appreciate this opportunity to be here with you today. I'm David Parrish, lifelong resident of Natchitoches Parish, Roebling, Marthaville area. I'm also a retired teacher. I taught 33 years in Sabine Parish, taught and coached, taught 6 academics per day. I also own several parcels of land in Natchitoches Parish. I have 2 children that went to school at Marthaville and then went to high school in Sabine Parish. They both graduated with honors, scholarships, etc., tops. Both of them are good college graduates, masters and doctorates. But I understand the education system, having been in it. I also have a young granddaughter, and currently what we're doing is looking for options for her education in the future at this time. The other night at the meeting at Marthaville, it was brought up that 3 to 5% of the student body at Natchitoches Central comes from the Marthaville School. And looking at this, our school district's paying, 20 meals currently. We voted that in. That's fine. But levying a new tax district in addition to the 20 meals would be a burden for many in our area. This would place a burden because we do have landowners. And the larger percentage of revenue in the research I've done would come from the families in the rural area if this tax was passed. Because of this, we don't support it. We want it rescinded. And for what venture is it for? Nobody has said anything. What is it for? And why establish a new tax district if you have no purpose for it, specifically outlined, that we would know about? That's like signing a bill into law and reading the bill after you sign it. That's what that is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parrish. Okay, Ms. Lisa Davis.
I'm going to be a little bit over 3 minutes, and I ask your indulgence, as you've done in the past for some folks, but I'll be fast, and I'll stay on track. My name is Lisa Davis, and I've taught or led curriculum development in many schools, multiple parishes, and also at Natchitoches Central. I now teach at Northwestern State University. I am and always have been an advocate for rural students and their families. I'm here to address a question that the superintendent and a couple of board members keep asking, and to ask a question of you. The question some of you keep asking is, why are they so angry? I have to wonder if some of you even know what you voted for and how you went about it last month, if you can seriously ask that question. Think about it. A group of you got together and decided to quickly, before any of the affected property owners could get notice, push through a vote for this new District 12 consolidation, ignoring Board Member Nicholson's plea to table it for just 30 days so he could inform his constituents of what was happening. And sincere thank you to those board members here who did support him. Some of you voted anyway to create a new district that ultimately will lead to rural property owners having little say in how much they will pay and for what. Though the superintendent mentioned multiple times it was for the district's mysterious long-term plans. And then you came out to a town hall meeting and seemed surprised that people were angry. And for those of you board members who keep sanctimoniously declaring that the money the Marthville-Roebling community voted for their school belongs to all children and want to try to make those property owners feel bad for wanting to keep that money in their community, shame on you. I know that you think that makes you sound better when you're defending yourselves and perhaps even makes you feel better. But again, shame on you for trying to shame a rural community for its pride and protectiveness of its own school. And keep in mind that all children doesn't exclude rural children, and it doesn't mean just kids who go to Natchitoches Central. Though I now live south of Natchitoches, my family still lives in Marthville, and we're property owners there. I'm not an official graduate of Marthville High School because it closed before my class could graduate. Excuse me. So in 11th grade, I became one of those dropouts that Superintendent Eloy and Board Member Benefield referred to at the Marthville Town Hall meeting. Except I had the privilege of having some special teachers who cared enough about me to see to it I went to the university. One of them, my 7th grade teacher, is here, and I'm proud of it. If anyone cared to look at the statistics of how many rural Natchitoches Parish students dropped out then, perhaps it could inform the trajectory of those who still do now. Have any of you considered any concrete actions to change that statistic? I don't mean coming to a town hall meeting and
Ms. Davis, you've reached your 3 minutes. Thank you for
Okay,
your
can I
comment.
finish?
Oh, ma'am, you reached your 3 minutes. Thank you. Ms. Teresa Parrish.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Teresa Parrish. I'm a lifelong resident of the Marthville-Roebling area. I taught at Marthville Elementary Junior High for almost 34 years. I'm very proud of that. My two children attended Marthville Junior High and then completed their high school educations in Sabine Parish. Continuing with Ms. Davis's remarks. I realize this was meant to be a scare tactic about dropouts and another example of believing that rural people are so ignorant that they don't know the difference. Why did it not occur to any of you to just level with your audience instead of being so insulting? That it's the district taking a hit for what appears to be dropouts, but are really kids opting for private and homeschool situations, and you just need them to fill out some paperwork to help the district out? What if you actually took action to develop a relationship between Natchitoches Parish, rural K-8 schools, and Natchitoches Central High School, so instead of less than 5% of our kids going there, you'd have the majority of them, or maybe even 40 to 50%. Isn't it logical that perhaps more families would be interested and supportive of your plans to use their property tax money to fund Natchitoches Central athletics and hopefully academics? 2 of my 3 children graduated from Natchitoches Central. In 2017, my youngest son graduated from there fully prepared for the hard math and sciences he needed for his Rad Tech program. But I also know that because he wanted to play football, I had to pick him up every day along with his cousin from Marthaville and his friend from Clutcheville because there was no activities bus transportation for them to their communities. When I and a number of parents from Marthaville, Provençal, Clutcheville showed up on the wrong day for an Natchitoches Central registration, an angry office administrator yelled at us that we couldn't follow directions. When a parent meekly pointed out that there was nothing in the paper that year about the schedule, the office admin scolded her, saying, "It's been on the sign out front for 2 weeks." It was then I reminded her that we couldn't see the sign from Marthaville, Provençal, Clutcheville, or Natchez. I know that just like in the 1970s when I was tested into the gifted program at Marthaville, I did not receive regular services because there was no one assigned to my school. Over 3 decades later, my nephew did not receive regular speech services at Marthaville because there weren't enough specialists to go around. And guess which schools got skipped when that happened? It's not the town schools. Likewise, my elderly parents still now drive into town to pick a grandchild up after tutoring or at the start of summer school because there is no consistent, reliable after-school transportation from Marthaville to Natchitoches Central. With these perspectives in mind, here's my question to all of you. Do you really mean it when you say you want to develop a relationship with the rural communities of Natchitoches Parish? Then prove it. Back off of this forced artificial consolidation.
Ms. Parrish, thank you.
Thank you for your excellent remarks.
Actually, they're all great remarks. They really are, and we appreciate hearing them. Mr. Carroll Daniels.
Thank you, Mr. President. I won't bother by introducing myself and wasting my time doing that. I served on this board 34 years. So, Lisa, thank you for those comments that you made. I was your 7th grade teacher, you know that. But I want to tell you, tax money is paid by business and industry, basically. Homeowners, most of them have tax exemptions, you know that. Homestead exemption, I think that's what they call it. But anyway, most of us do, to some extent. I got to counting the industry in the city of Natchitoches driving over here. 6 major hotels on I-49, 4 major service stations, French Market, whatever. The brand new Chevrolet dealership. And we also have a Ford dealership. We have ConAgra and Alliance. We have you watching your time? Don't let me go over now. We have 2 tractor places, Weeks Tractor and the other one. I can't think of the name of it. Yeah, and when you go down Kaiser Avenue, all the businesses you see all the way to Walmart, Super Walmart, go south, you see Bell's down there and all the businesses down there. There's no comparison to what the ability Natchitoches has to levy taxes and build schools. Mr. Matoir, I know you're wondering what I'm doing up here talking to defend a rural school when we voted against Clutcheville that year. Well, let me tell you, Had I been reelected, I would have worked and fought to get Clutcherville a new school. They need one. The city of Natchitoches needs some relief on the south end. Provençal needs relief. Provençal and Clutcherville cannot build a school in Natchez or south of Natchez anywhere. They just don't have the tax funds to do it. Provençal's overburdened, and the south end of the city of Natchitoches is overburdened with students. They need something on the south end, maybe closer to town. How many kids from our west end of the parish play football? 4 years ago, there was 2. One of them I watched quite a bit. He played 4 years, never got to play. I went his senior year, I watched him invite all his parents to come and everybody, because it was senior night. Traditionally, seniors get to play that night. They get to start normally. He never went on the field. Not one time. He stood on the sideline the whole game. I can't understand that. I've worked in a lot of schools. I've been a principal of a lot of schools. They always let the seniors start senior night. They made them pay 30 seconds. Is that it?
Thank you, Mr.
You heard
Daniels.
about half of what I wanted to say, Billy.
Ms. Carroll, thank you. And I'm not sure, is it Jamie or James Graves? Okay, Ms. Graves. Thank you.
My name is Jamie Graves, and I was asked by Philip Strahan to speak on his behalf as he could not be in attendance due to work obligations. I would like to thank you all for allowing me to speak. I wanted to bring something to light in regards to recent passing Consolidation School District 12. I have some numbers I want to bring to everyone's attention. School Tax District 9, Natchitoches City Schools, taxable base approximately $224 million. School Tax District 10, Marthaville, taxable base of approximately $51 million. School Tax District 11, Provençal Clutcherville, taxable base combined of approximately $50 million. Total taxable base for new District 12, $326 million. The proposed millage for new District 12 would be 6 mills. So looking at the amount coming from the old districts, it would be like this. School District 9, Natchitoches, $1.4 million, 70% of total. School Tax District 10, Marthaville, $300,000, 16% of total. School District 11, Provençal Clutcherville, $280,000, 14% of total. So why do these numbers raise so much concern, you might ask? Here are some more numbers to consider. Percentage of kids from areas that attend Natchitoches Central High School. Natchitoches schools, 94%. Marthaville School, 2%. Provençal School, 4%. So the question comes to mind, why shouldn't the ratio of the tax dollars of District 12 be based upon the amount of students that feed Natchitoches Central High School? This just raises taxes and sends more of our money to something we receive minimal benefit from. Anytime a tax is proposed, the Natchitoches voters will hold more weight and decide every tax that is put on the ballot. Our people in the rural areas will no longer have a voice in what is done with their tax dollars. This whole thing should have been handled differently. There should have been a plan developed, presented to the people who financed these decisions, and then proposed a new tax district and why it was being proposed. We are expected as citizens to just close our minds and go along with whatever is laid forth. This is not right, and it can be considered taxation without representation. Stop for 1 minute, and each of you place yourselves in our shoes. All 11 of you go out to dinner with me. There are 2 of us from one area, 3 from another, 6 from the last. We all order the same exact thing. The bill is $480, and the waiter splits it into 3 separate checks equally, $160 apiece. Is this fair? No. District 12 needs to be treated the exact same way, equally proportioned to their direct involvement. I ask you to please reconsider the vote from the June meeting. Let's put the brakes on and develop a plan. Communicate this with all constituents and then put it back on the ballot. There should be no hidden agendas when it comes to dealing with other people's money. Communication, absolute transparency, and fair treatment is essential to reaching a common goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Graves. Those, appreciate those numbers. Ms. Crystal Smith.
First and foremost, I would like to thank the board for allowing me to speak today. My name is Crystal Smith, and I'm a property owner and taxpayer in District 10. For many generations, my family have been property owners, taxpayers, and attended Marthaville School. Myself and my children all attended school there. Currently, I have many children in my family still in attendance. Marthville, as you all know, is a small blue-collar community made up of many families. For many years, past as well as present, the school is a tie that binds our small community. For years, there has been an issue of mistrust between the board members and the District 10 voting community. Weeks ago, at a school board retreat, there was a discussion to consolidate and create a new District 12 that included Marthville with the city's schools. A retreat that our elected school board member, Mr. Nicholson, was not present. At the town hall meeting in Marthville, the community asked, what is the purpose of this new taxing district? We received vague answers such as sports and safety. Now, I believe this board is made up of educated individuals. Therefore, I do not believe that the board made a decision without some sort of plan or goal in mind. This is a clear example to myself of why there is a lack of trust. This evening, I believe the board has an opportunity to take one step in the right direction to mend our future relationships. So in closing, I have two questions. Question one, had the Marthville district been struggling financially, would this consolidation even have been considered? Question two, are the benefits of this consolidation equal? Will Marthville benefit the same as Natchitoches? If the answer to either question is no, then morally, you should repeal this consolidation. I would also like to remind you that just because something is legal does not make it moral, ethical, or right by any means, and it's definitely never too late to do the right thing. Thank you.
Ms. Smith, thank you. Board members, do you have any comment?
I'd like to speak.
Yes, sir.
Minifield. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for everyone who got up and spoke tonight. I felt like it was very clear, the points that were made, and a lot of the points I'm going to make right now are just going to reflect what you said and reiterate on the same things you said. And that's a good thing because that means we're all on the same page in the way that we understand this. There are many hurt feelings and broken trust over the decision made by the board last month not to table the issue of consolidating multiple districts to create a new tax District 12. When asked for time to better understand the issue, providing clarity and transparency to the people who are directly affected by this issue, the board voted to move forward without granting people this wish. People are angry and confused over why this issue was handled this way and why the board would not grant people the time to ask questions and provide clarity before a vote was made to move forward. There was no timeline that would have been affected by tabling this vote. The issue could have been discussed and debated before moving forward. Consolidating multiple districts into one creates a situation where smaller communities' votes are effectively marginalized. I can say that many people in the Marthville, Roebeline, and surrounding communities are in support of contributing to Natchitoches Central, as that is the public high school in our parish for our children. I, like many, would ask that we consider a more equitable way of funding future projects. I ask that we take a step towards healing the rift that some of our communities feel lies between our rural areas and the city of Natchitoches. Many of our families feel as if the smaller rural schools and communities are oftentimes overlooked and that our opinions are not taken into consideration. I ask that we have a reset. We repeal the decision to create Tax District 12. We come back to the drawing table with plans to move forward with future projects. We have conversation with clarity on why we're trying to raise money to begin with and come up with ideas to fund those projects that are equitable, fair, clear, and honest. We consider varying opinions and decide on the best way to move forward. Everyone is not always going to agree, but we should always be able to say that as a board, we are being transparent and honest.
Board members, does anyone else have a comment in this regard?
I do.
Go ahead, Ms. Brady.
Something like this, I think that if we can't put forward the plan and show it on paper and show it, I think that we do have to take a step back and reset and support Mr. Nicholson on this matter.
Do Do we have any other comments from board members?
Can we table this?
There's not a motion to table it.
But I can make a motion to table it. And the reason being is because of the fact that I think you need to have necessary plans, and that's not just for Marthaville, it's for everybody. So I'll make a motion to table it. If I don't get a second, that's what it is.
Okay, that motion to amend this proposition to table it has died for a lack of second. Does anyone else have any more comments? I've got something that I've been listening to the comments, and I really appreciate everyone who had the courage to stand up at that podium before and speak publicly, because not everybody can do that. And this is not the board's opinion, this is mine. There's no bigger supporter of Marthville in this board than me. I've been listening to comments and reading emails and looking at the data and considering all the facts, and I think there's some misunderstanding. Ms. Davis and Ms. Parrish, as far as the dropouts go, we actually sent people to that entity to try to get them to complete that paperwork so they would not be considered dropouts. That's what our plan was. We did not want them to be dropouts. As far as Ms. Davis's deal from many, many years ago, I don't know the particulars, and that's her business. But we went the extra mile so these students would not be considered dropouts. And so I'm not altogether sure where that information got misplaced, but was not our intention. The intention was to call it to the parents' attention to make sure if someone does leave our public school and goes to another school, make sure that the paperwork's done, and so these people will not be considered a dropout. And that's all. As far as Ms. Graves, thank you for those numbers. That's a lot of good.
I have a question.
Sure.
And I don't, maybe Mr. Nicholson can tell me, what is the reason why Marthville don't send, the community don't send their kids to Natchitoches Central?
Well, I can't speak for every family, Ms. Palmer, but I can tell you my kids go to Natchitoches Central, and I live in Robeline and in that community, and there are several people in the crowd tonight whose kids go to Natchitoches Central. I think it's a personal choice, just like some of our people that live in Natchitoches decide to send their kids to St. Mary's and decide to send their kids to homeschool programs. I don't think that's something that is unique to Marthville, even though sometimes it might seem as such when people are more vocal.
Over the years, I've heard, and I heard it in here when we had another issue, that it's because of sports or because of transportation. Lakeview is out on a highway. People go back and forth to take their kids to Lakeview for sports and other things. I just feel like if you're invested in your community, if you are invested in Natchitoches Parish, you would send your kids to Natchitoches Central.
I can speak to the Lakeview issue for sure. As many here know, I was the former head football coach at Lakeview and taught at Lakeview for 5 years and will always be a part of that community as well. We had an activity bus that ran every day at 5 o'clock or 5:30, and it picked up 75 to 85% of the kids on my team. And if we did not have that activity bus, we would not have been able to field a team. That is an absolute fact. And sure, as a head coach, it was rough sometimes to have to shut practice down at 5 o'clock every day, but we had to do that to ensure that our kids were able to be able to compete.
So I heard talk about building relationships with Marthville. What if an activity bus was created? Would that increase those students coming to Natchitoches Central?
I understand that it was promised last year and did not happen. And it's been promised again for this year, so hopefully we will see it.
We can again, I thank every one of them for reaching out. It's always good to hear people and what their perspective is and where they come from. Another thing that the comment was that Marthville, shame on the board for not wanting Marthville to keep the money in Marthville for their school. No one's gonna touch the BRE money. It's in Marthville. It's Marthville's BRE money. That's not even up for discussion. We recently held some town hall meetings to reach out to the public, and the board learned a lot of things. And so we're gonna have some meetings with small groups from each community, each community to follow up and to consider the information that we learned at these meetings and some of the things that we're seeing here today. The issue you discuss are very important to us because some of these are concerns for Natchitoches Parish School Board. The school board will see a lot of changes over the next several years. During the superintendent's report on July 6th, Superintendent Eloy highlighted a number of concerns the board's facing. The board was presented information that we will lose 800 students by the year 2027 in Natchitoches Parish. This board and the board behind it are going to be faced with some very difficult decisions as to the reallocation of resources due to the projected 800 students that will leave Natchitoches Parish, and potentially the state, because the state is losing people at a record numbers. As a result of the lower student count, and the loss of MFP funding, we're going to see gaps in our system. The shortfall could reach over $4 million by 2027. It's a lot of money in our budget. The state of Louisiana is the only state in the southeastern United States that's losing population. Everybody else is growing. As a result, the MFP funding we'll receive will decrease dramatically every year. We'll lose millions of dollars. As well, the state legislature continues to create unfunded mandates, the last of which was the TAT legislation, which was signed not long ago. We end up absorbing, and that's going to be somewhere around $800,000 to $1 million. That the school board takes it on the chin. So you know what, figure out how to fund it. So things have changed drastically over the last month since that action was voted on. So how does it affect Marthville and the things that you've described? And it does. It affects everyone in this parish. We're all connected. Natchitoches Parish School Board needs partners in every community to provide input on the decisions. I understand that this probably could have been handled quite a bit differently and from your perspective better, and I don't disagree. But most importantly, we need partners in those communities to send their students to Natchitoches Parish Public Schools to keep our MFP in parish, which in turn will keep our system and potentially our community schools stabilized. All of this, we're connected. At the town hall meetings, we said we want to be an economic driver for the parish. We're surging in our system scores, and we're making huge gains. And we are reaching out to the public, and we're publicizing that, and we're actually reaching out for teachers. The certified teachers we have in the classroom has never been higher than it has been in the last probably 15, 20 years, Ms. Page. We're making huge gains in progress, but unless we attract more business and industry, and I'm talking about industry, and what we're doing with our dual enrollment, what Mr. Stewart is working on. I mean, these are the things that we're doing to poise ourselves to draw industry into Natchitoches Parish. The school board wants to do everything that we possibly can, but unless we attract more industry, we're on a downward student population trajectory. We're trying to make ourselves as attractive as we possibly can to the outside world and be that driver. But we need everyone. We need everyone in the parish to be on the same page. All of our communities support our K-8 schools except the former District 6 taxing district in Clutchville area, but we hope to remedy that situation in the fall. District 7 aligns the Lakeview feeder schools with a consolidated taxing district. That includes Fairview, Goldina, and Lakeview. Now, this is a BRE district. This is not a bond district, but there allows for a bond to be passed, and there recently was a bond passed in that district. District 12 was created for the purpose of consolidating the feeder schools for bonds for Natchitoches Central. In the past, only the town schools have paid for anything with Natchitoches Central. There are currently no bonds, and any bond proposition that is proposed has to go first in front of the board and then be approved by the voters in the parish that are eligible to vote for this. So the public must vote for it too. There's a lot of steps that take place before any bond can take place. this is the Natchitoches Parish School Board, really. This is not just a localized thing. The board must consider all the facts and issues. Things have dramatically changed in the last 30 days. You've heard me say that how many times? We had almost 7,000 students when Mr. Carroll Daniels was on school board years ago. We finished the school year with 5,200, and we're projected to see 4,400 students by end of school year 2027. That is a tremendous drop in students. No community is an island, and we're all connected. During the town hall meetings, we heard comments that while we were discussing the district in Niagara Central, and the comments were, we don't care about Niagara Central, we don't care about any of that, we only want to hear about Marthaville. We don't want to hear about Niagara Central or the district. It doesn't matter to us. And guys, that hurts. That really hurts.
Mr. Benfield, can I speak to that?
Sure.
Specific comment? And I think most of us would agree. The reason that comment was made was because of the timing of the way that meeting fell. It fell right after the things that happened at the board meeting last month. And so that was absolutely on the forefront. Those people were there to talk about that issue. Even though we knew the meeting was set up for different reasons, they were there to hear us address, because we refused to table the time, so they wanted that time to be able to ask those questions.
I agree, Mr. Nicholson, and I supported tabling that, but it just didn't happen. Marthaville had well over 300 students just a few years back, less than 5 years. They're projected to have around 200 students by 2027. Again, we must find a way to increase Marthaville's enrollment. We see where this is going, guys. We've got to work together. The board created a recent tax district to align all the feeder schools in the parish with the high schools and respond to future needs. Marthaville, it seems, doesn't want to be a part of that. And I understand the anger. I do. When you say, why are you angry? I understand. Anyone that has a tax tossed at them, they don't want to, I understand that. And they want to pull out of District 12. But no community is an island. We've got to be in this together. Natchitoches Parish is going to face some extreme difficulty. This board and the board coming behind it is going to see some things and have to make some decisions that are going to be gut-wrenching. It's been stated that the small K-12 schools perform better than the larger schools. I agree, 100%. We had K-12s everywhere in Natchitoches Parish, and they were all great. Some of your parents and grandparents all attended them. Mine did too. But our neighbors to the east were just faced with a dilemma of closing a high school due to a low student count. They couldn't do it. They couldn't vote to close that high school, but they were forced to come back the next month and close the whole K-12 because they couldn't make that decision. There are 226 students in that community going to be displaced. And that's probably where we are with student count with a lot of schools. Their board just could not make that decision. They had a tough time. Our neighbors to the west have a number of K-12s, and they're probably going to look very, very different in the next 2 to 3 years, maybe 5 at the most. But for the most part, they're going to look very different. Things are changing, and we all need to understand these changes and how they're going to affect us. Again, with the information presented over the last 30 days, all of us on this board have had a chance to consider it. And I'm going to tell you what has happened in the last week when these numbers dropped on how many students we're going to lose. That's some eye-opening numbers. When we form these follow-up focus groups, I encourage each community to select and send open-minded representatives to the meeting who are going to be willing to listen, learn, and participate and assist us. Guys, we're going to need your input. And this is going to be a situation, I know where you are today, but help us move this forward. We need community partners and allies that are going to be willing to consider the facts and help the board understand all the factors. Marthaville's a great school, always has been, always has been. The Natchitoches Parish School Board is going to be reaching out in the future for such representatives to help us. I encourage everyone to contact their board member and representative with any concerns in the future, because in this parish, we're all in this together. Decisions have to be made with all of our students in mind. And guys, the board appreciates all your attendance and participation and your ideas this evening. This is a very, very tough situation, no matter how you lay it out. Thank you again, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak and to be heard from you and for you guys to provide your input. Anyone else?
Yeah, well, Mr. Minifield, thank you for those comments and on-time comments. You mentioned something in there about District 11, Consolidated District Number 11. And I thought that Consolidated District Number 12 was supposed to do the same thing as Consolidated District Number 7. We have ours mapped out where Lakeview, Goldana, and Fairview, we get along really well. And because Lakeview has the most expenses, both Goldana and Fairview split 60%, 30 each way. And Lakeview does 40%. And that's why I voted the way I voted, because I think that each school that's connected with Natchitoches Parish ought to pull our fair load and be
But that's the BRE,
equal.
Reverend Harris.
Yeah, that's BRE, but we also passed a bond as well. We were able to do that.
And
And if
those
I'm
items are
not
all
mistaken,
earmarked, yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, any one of the, 2 schools, 3 schools could do the same thing. Am I right? That's within Consolidated District Number 12?
That's correct. If we call a
that-
bond, could be for any of the schools.
If Marthaville wanted to do something and they wanted to call a bond, they could do that? Could they do that?
Marthaville still has District 10
I understand.
they would use
Yeah.
for those purposes.
Absolutely. They do have, now, I can remember, and I think Mr. Daniels he may have been on the board at that particular time, when Marthaville did not have such a robust 20 meals. And I think the school had to come to the rescue of building some ponds or some
Oxidation ponds.
oxidation ponds.
The district had to come.
The district had to come in and help out.
We've actually
And I
had to
think
hold
that's-
2 and 3 different BRE elections because even when it was at 7 or 8 mills, they couldn't pass it
Right.
many years ago.
And now you all, I understand, you voted for 20 meal, and that's commendable. But it may not be there always that you want 20 meal that you vote for, And so my reasoning for voting the way I voted, I was completely knowledgeable of what was given to me. And that's why I voted the way I did.
Can I say one more thing, Mr. Benefield?
Sure, Ms. Nichols.
And I feel like this is the main point. I just feel like there's a better way that this can be done. The tabling issue, in my mind, my opinion, was wrong and bad, the way that we handled that as a board. But on top of that, when we talk about, and you made the comment too, when you said everyone should contribute fairly and equitably. And when those numbers came out, that may not be the case. And I'd like to see real numbers that would show us exactly how that matches. But if you've got 90% of the students coming from one district and yet they would only be footing 70% of the bill, the equity piece rings to me a little bit. So if you've got even 5% of the students, but you're paying 15% into any future projects that are being, I just feel that there's a better way it can be done. And I'm not a financial expert. I don't know what that answer would be, but I would definitely be willing to sit at the table on the drawing board and figure it out. There are children from our community that attend Natchitoches Central. We should be contributing in an equitable manner. And this just does not ring true as equitable to me. And that's the point that I wanted to make. That's why I think we need to start over. First of all, tell us what this money is going to be for that we need to raise, and then figure out how to raise it in a conversation where all of us can talk and be honest and clear and transparent, and where the community is informed. and then we make decisions and we move forward. And at that point, if people don't agree, that's fine, but at least we can say that we've been honest and transparent and clear with what our intentions are and how we do it. And it may be that this is the most equitable way to do it, and we can move forward in that direction in the future again. I just don't think so. I think there's a better way that we could do this.
Any other comments? Ms. Revels, can you do a roll call vote on this?
Yes, sir.
No, well, you had the opportunity to speak at the mic. If you
This
have
is not a forum audience. Please sit down.
If you have a form submitted, then we called on all those folks.
We usually ask questions. We always ask questions from the audience. Are there any questions from the audience? We spoke, but we didn't.
This is not a forum audience. Please remain quiet.
Okay, Ms. Revels?
Mr. Danzy?
No. Now, wait.
Can we get clarity on
A
what?
vote for yes means we're overturning it. A vote for no means we are not overturning it.
Okay, give me just a second here. I'm having to work from an iPad as opposed to my laptop.
Okay.
You said a yes overturns, a no does not, correct?
Let me reread it. I'll read what we have in front of us. Discuss and consider repealing creation of tax district 12. A vote of yes will be repeal the creation. A vote no will mean that we will not repeal the creation.
Okay, is everybody clear? Ready for roll call?
Yes.
Mr. Danzy?
No.
Mr. Matoir?
No.
Mr. Benefield?
No.
Mr. Harris?
No.
Mrs. McGaskey?
No.
Ms. Palmer?
No.
Ms. Phelps?
No.
Ms. Harvey?
No.
Mr. Fredo?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholson?
Yes.
And Ms. Page?
Yes.
3-8, motion failed. Yes.
Ms. Palmer, can you start your report on finance?
All right. Finance. A, take appropriate action, combination bid award for the 23-24 school year.
I guess I'm standing in for Shauna Hicks today. She has presented a request to approve, I guess it's Lafayette Restaurant Supply, as a winner of the bid. Oh, Associated Food and Equipment, I'm sorry. Because she has X's on page 2 by that bid. I guess I'm discussing, we haven't done a motion in a second.
I move that we approve.
Okay, Ms. Reba Phelps is,
I'll second.
and we have a motion from Ms. Phelps, second by Mr. Fredo, to approve this purchase. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Okay. B, discuss and consider approval of ECHO proposed contract amendment. I'll offer.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Tankia Palmer and a second by Mr. Fredo. And
I would like to amend that motion and we just table this item until we get more, questions with, Eco Ride.
I second.
okay, we have a motion on this motion by Mr. Matoir to table it, and second by Mr. Danzy for further discussion.
I have a question. Did anybody get in contact with corporate?
Superintendent Eloy, can you provide some information on that?
Yes, sir. We've had several conversations with and several board members, and I apologize. There's a little feedback. I hear people talk, but no, I think there are conversations. There's still some questions and a few other board members, and I think we can get that information in a timely manner to y'all. one question I have, President Benefield, and I guess this would also be for Mr. Matoire since he's brought on the motion. Is it possible for us to try to pursue a special called meeting for the last week of July if we table this item with the intent that whatever we choose to do, we want to give a definitive answer to our bus drivers prior to the start of the school year?
Yes, I think we could do that, as long as it's not a 5-day holiday like we've had in the past. You have any of those scheduled?
No, sir.
Okay. Would everybody be okay with the 24th? That gives us 2 weeks.
I think that's that.
I won't be able to be here on the 24th.
Okay, what about the 25th?
That's less than 2 weeks.
Well, I mean,
What
that's,
day is that, Tuesday?
we should be able to get the answers next week. That's Friday.
Oh, no, I won't be here.
But what I'm saying is, the 24th, 25th, we could get this wrapped up, because we're bumping into the next week, starting our committee meeting. Yeah.
I'm
won't
out
be
the
here.
24th through the 27th.
And the 25th is the expo.
Could we, on our committee meeting, could we just have a special call meeting just for that item?
We certainly can, but that's gonna push us way back, Mr. Matoire, and they're looking at whatever their advertisement is on recruiting, they'd like to get that out as soon as possible. That's the urgency in this, and if we're not gonna move forward on it, then they need to know that, and if we are moving forward on it, they need to know that.
I also have another question. The bus aides, are they included in this rate?
Monitors.
It's $1 and a quarter if I remember right.
Yeah, monitors are $1.25 an hour, yeah.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor to table this,
Second.
and we have a second by Mr. Danzy. Roll call vote, Ms. Revels, please.
Mr. Danzy,
Yes.
Mr. Matoire,
Yes.
Mr. Benefield,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey,
Yes.
Ms. Palmer,
Yes.
Ms. Phelps,
Yes.
Ms. Harvey,
Yes.
Mr. Fredo,
Yes.
Mr. Nicholson,
Yes.
and Ms. Page.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. I would really like us to target the 24th. I know Mr. Nicholson can't make it, but they need to go on with life, no matter what we decide, so. And then anything after that, we'll be pushing it. That gives us a week and a half, almost 2 weeks to get this done. And so we'll target the 24th, but again, we'll leave that work in progress.
5 p.m.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Palmer.
C, discuss and consider MOU between NSU and Natchitoches School Board. Can I get a motion?
I'll offer.
Second.
All right, we have an offer by the dual tandem of Mr. Matoire. Okay. Pastor Harrison, second by Ms. McGaskey.
You want a roll call vote?
Roll call vote?
I think we should just,
Oh, they're doing it. Verbal.
yeah, let's do a verbal. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Thank you, board members.
D, discuss and consider MOU between NSU and BIPSI.
I'll offer.
Second.
All right, and the discussion. Ms. Palmer, do you know what all these acronyms mean? No, I'm kidding, ma'am. Don't worry about it. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
E, discuss and consider approval of 2023-2024 Rapides Effective Schools Grant and Resolution.
I'll offer.
I got
Okay, we have an offer by Mr. Matoire, second by Mr. Danzy, and I think we need to have a little discussion on this one. Ms. Pinckney, is this one yours? Okay.
That's
I
the
just-
match grant.
Yeah, it's a grant, but I just want to make sure there's no questions by any of, they want to give us money and we want it, so. So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Did we have a motion and a second on that item, Ms. Rebels?
Yes.
We did.
Motion by
Certainly
Mr. Matoire, second by
Second
Mr.
by me.
Danzy.
There we go. That's why we're moving so fast on that. Okay. All right, Mr. Wascom, we love hearing you read.
Well, we got a motion and a second here first.
Do we have it?
I'll offer.
Second.
Okay, I'll offer Mr. Dwyer, second, Mr. Tansey on this resolution for District 11.
Okay, this is the part, it's called a call resolution. I'm going to just read the first paragraph. This is a resolution ordering and calling for a special election to be held in Consolidated District 11 of the Parish of Natchitoches, State of Louisiana, to authorize the levy of a special tax therein, making application to the State Board Commission, and providing for other matters in connection therein. And then the rest of the document is provided. The election that we are calling for will be held November 18th. It'll be Saturday, November 18th.
Do we need to read that motion and voting data there?
Down at the bottom.
Can, if you'd like, section 1?
But no, I'm talking about just the
The
motion to
proposition.
adopt and call resolution for such and such time and so forth.
Where is that?
That's at the very bottom of the sheet
Of the first page?
of the,
Page 3?
yes,
The notice of special election?
Or the proposition.
it
For the
says
proposition.
voting.
Okay, this is actually what will be listed to the voters.
Okay, okay.
Shall Consolidated District Number 11 of the Parish of Natchitoches, State of Louisiana, levy a special tax of 8 mills on the property subject to taxation therein for a period of 10 years, beginning with the year 2024 and ending with the year 2033. An estimated $400,000 reasonably expected to, at this time, to be collected from the levy of the tax for the entire year, for the purpose of constructing, improving, maintaining, and operating public elementary and secondary school in the district, including the purchase of equipment, supplies. Said tax is to be in lieu of and completely replace the following and ad valorem taxes within Consolidated Districts 8, which is the 7 mil, authorized to be levied through year 2031 pursuant to an election held on December 11th, 2021, and 7 mills authorized to be levied through the year 2034 pursuant to the election held on April 29th, 2023. So this election, if voted, if it passes, will replace the 14 mills currently in place in District 6.
Better roll it back.
And I will say that the $400,000 should be sufficient, which we only currently collect $117,000. This should be sufficient to keep Provençal at its current pace going. I just wanted to make that clear, that this will be, I had originally proposed 10, y'all might remember, but in discussing with Emile, that this 8 mills would be still sufficient.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Could you have a roll call vote, Ms. Rebels?
Mr. Danzy?
Yes.
Mr. Matoire?
Yes.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Fredo?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholson?
Yes.
And Ms. Page?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank all of you.
Provençal needs some help.
That concludes finance.
All right. Mr. Danzy, thank you, Ms. Palmer.
You're welcome.
You know, Ms. Palmer, you had this was a very tough report to struggle through. Thank you for leading us through it. No, seriously, guys, there was a lot of, anytime you have these heart-to-heart conversations, it is tough. Anytime you're dealing with a community and a community school and people that are that they went to that school, their parents went to that school, their grandparents went to that school, it is a very, very difficult conversation.
Executive report, item A, discuss and consider Natchitoches Parish School Board Alternative School and Program Handbook. Ms. Felicia Pinckney.
I'll offer.
Second.
Okay, we've got an offer by Mr. McClure, second by Ms. McGaskey. So we had a chance to look at that. Have you changed anything since our last meeting? A little cleanup? Okay,
Yeah, it was one of them, it just had some garbage,
yeah.
turned to garbage.
Okay. But the verbiage and the contents are the same, you just did cleanup. Okay.
And just to be clear, the Lakeview kids would be bused to NPTC in this, correct?
That is correct.
It's still showing on our computer with it.
Yeah, it's,
On page 5, it's still showing it.
yeah, I don't think it was updated. I don't think page
Maybe it
five-
hadn't been
I don't
updated.
think it was updated.
It didn't convert for whatever reason. We found that what it was simply a difference in the font. When we look at the PDF, it's clearly red, but if you guys want a copy of it, we can get you a hand copy, but it's
I
just
think
that
we
one
can-
sentence, and
I
it's
think
because
we
of the
can
font.
struggle
And
through
as
it.
long as it uploads like normal, and it should.
Yes.
My screen is showing fine. I don't know what's going on when it goes here, but, that sentence is actually about the transportation specifically.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Could you have a roll call vote on this action item, Ms. Bevels?
Yes, sir. Mr. Danzy?
Yes.
Mr. Matoir?
Yes.
Mr. Benefiel?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Fredo?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholson?
Yes.
And Ms. Page?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Item B, discuss and consider revisions to Natchitoches Parish School Board, corporal punishment, Natchitoches Parish schools beginning in the 23-24 school year.
I'll offer.
Second.
We have our offer by Reverend Harris and a second by Ms. Palmer. To discuss this item, Ms. Phelps, can you take the lead on this?
Yes, absolutely. As you're aware, with the attachments on the board docs, we have the option of banning corporal punishment in Natchitoches Parish because of the new state law changes where parents have to opt in if they choose to have their child punished that way at school. And it's the belief of the district and many educators that I've spoken to that they would rather see it banned altogether in our system rather than risk the uncertainty of, did that parent really opt out, or do we have a signed form? And that will eliminate any confusion.
We currently follow the structure of having a signed form from a parent, correct? I think it's been district policy for some years.
It
Right,
has.
It is district policy.
Yeah, so we have followed that form, and now just the state is implementing that.
Well, where you have a problem, Ms. Fredo, is you have a domicile parent that may say whatever, and you have another parent that may not be the domicile parent that may want to get involved, and then suddenly now you've got two different.
Right. But currently, that's what we follow, correct?
That is
It is,
correct.
but the way the state law reads, it's banned unless a parent opts in.
Right.
So that's saying, the state is saying, we don't want to see it in public schools, but if someone insists, they have to opt in.
Right. Well, as a parent, I would like to have that option myself. So, I mean, I've seen it used, and I've seen it worked on myself and plenty of others when I was in school, so, we ask these teachers to watch these numbers and do this and that, and we're constantly taking away options for this. And, you know, I know times have changed in legality, but we do have lawyers in place, and we have paperwork in place, and that's what it's for.
So, Mr. Fredo, you said you were an unruly child?
No, I wasn't. I'd done a few things, and the paddle straightened it up. Simple stuff.
Did the paperwork.
And
I'll say
I do
too-
agree with you. That's the same thing happened to me when I was in school. I'd rather take the licks than my mother know about it.
You was unruly.
Absolutely.
We all received some corporal punishment in school.
Okay, let's have a roll call vote on this. If there's no more discussion.
I think Mr. Nicholson had something. Oh, I was just gonna say, I'm always gonna side with, I don't wanna take options away from the principals, and every situation is different. Every school is different, every community is different. And if that's something that's valued and it's effective and works, I think, you know, I wouldn't want to remove that from the principal's toolbox if I
I would bet that there probably wasn't much of this going on in the school
No,
this year
it's-
at all. But if a principal at a certain school knows 3 kids in that school, that he knows the parents very well, and he can get to that kid this way, I think he or she should have that option.
With the parents' permission.
Right, with the parents'
Yes, ma'am.
permission. Right.
Ms. Revels?
Yes.
If there's no further discussion, board members, I'd like a roll call vote on this item.
Okay.
So yes, a vote yes is to stop the punishment, a vote no is to continue to have it.
Well, and it wouldn't be, right, it'd be opting in. It would be a whole different policy.
Mr. Danzy?
Yes.
Mr. Matoire?
Yes.
Mr. Benefiel?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
No.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Fredo?
No.
Mr. Nicholson?
No.
Ms. Page?
Yes.
8-3, motion passed. Mr. Benefiel, if I may, before we move on, an error was just brought to my attention on item 5D. The subject line says discuss and consider MOU between NSU and BIPSI. The motion and the documentation are correct. The subject line is wrong. It should be NPSB and BIPSI. But the motion and the documentation were correct, just the subject line was wrong.
Okay. I see the motion. Let's go back, my board members, I'll go back to 5D. The motion reads, motion to approve MOU between Natchitoches Parish School Board and BIPSI to continue the students' optional of use of dual enrollment
Yes.
and dual enrollment courses. Okay, so that was the motion that was presented. However, if you look at the agenda item, it says NSU. I think the motion that we presented is sufficient
It's valid,
to make
yes.
this work.
Yes.
Anyone
It's
have
valid.
any difference of opinion? Okay. Board members, thank you for your patience and understanding through this very difficult meeting. I was very serious about how this is going to affect us moving down the road. We have in front of us something that's going to be very difficult. And we need to, as a board, fully articulate our feelings. I'm very proud of the board members who voted against the norm or against the majority that passed. I think it's great to have that debate. I think it's great to have that difference of opinion, and I really appreciate those board members standing up for what they say and think.
Also, excuse me, one more thing. I placed some documents on your, at your seats. Ms. Ingram asked if you would distribute those throughout your community to get the word out to churches, local grocery stores, or what have you, regarding the expo.
That's great. Mr. Matoire, do you have a message for us?
We adjourn.
Any second on that? Second on Pastor Harris. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, board members.
So we are sure the 24th.
We're gonna try to. We'll let you know either way.